Hello everyone, welcome to 5 Minutes Discovery Channel. Mr. Trump warned that a prison sentence could anger his supporters. In an interview broadcast on Fox News on June 2, former President Donald Trump admitted the possibility that he could receive a prison sentence or be placed under house arrest when the court announces his sentence on July 11. "I'm fine with that, but I'm not sure the public will accept it. I think it will be difficult for the public to accept this. You know that there will come a time when they will explode in anger," Mr. Trump said. Mr. Trump issued the warning in the context of America's fear of violence breaking out during the preparation period. Increasingly tense for the presidential election in November, Mr. Trump also faces 3 other criminal trials, including one related to his attempt to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Supporter Mr. Trump's supporters in January 2021 stormed the Capitol Hill complex after the former president called on them to fight hard. A New York jury on May 31 found Mr. Trump guilty of 34 charges related to falsifying business records during the final stages of the 2016 election campaign, working to cover up a related sex scandal. To porn star Stormy Daniels. After Mr. Trump was convicted, porn star Stormy Daniels said the former president should be jailed. Daniels said he was finally vindicated after years of fighting with Mr. Trump on social networks, but admitted he was shocked when the jury reached a verdict so quickly. However, the guilty verdict could have an impact. Big to Mr. Trump in the election. A source familiar with Mr. Trump's campaign strategy predicts that the jury's verdict will push the former president to choose a female deputy candidate. Mr. Trump said the trial in New York affected his wife, Melania Trump, who was absent for much of the trial. "She's fine, but I think she finds it very difficult," Mr. Trump said. Melania hardly participates in her husband's current election campaign, nor does she appear at any of her former rallies. President Trump often accompanies him in public. The conviction does not prevent Mr. Trump from continuing to run for the White House this year. The U.S. Constitution requires that presidential candidates be at least 35 years old, be citizens born in the U.S. and have lived in this country for at least 14 years. There are no regulations prohibiting people with criminal records or criminals from running for office. Mr. Trump started using TikTok. On June 1, Mr. Donald Trump decided to open a TikTok account, the social network that he sought to ban when he was president for national security reasons. Mr. Trump has attracted 3 million followers just in one day. Previously, Mr. Trump's opponent, current President Joe Biden, also joined TikTok, although he signed a law that will ban the application if owner ByteDance does not divest its capital in the coming months. Mr. Biden currently has 340,000 followers. The first video on the account is 13 seconds long, seemingly filmed at an event of mixed martial arts entertainment company Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC, in Newark, New Jersey on January 1. 6. TikTok argues that it will not share U.S. user data with the Chinese government and that it has taken significant measures to protect user privacy. The move is said to be an effort by Mr. Trump to reach potential young voters in this year's White House race. His opponent, President Joe Biden, also joined TikTok in February. "The campaign is happening on all fronts," said an advisor to Mr. Trump's election campaign. "Being able to reach multiple platforms and news outlets is important. This is one of the ways we reach voters. TikTok leans towards young people. Mr. Trump still has an important position in the party, Republican, and received huge support from voters. Therefore, this year's U.S. presidential election is expected to be very fierce and may contain unexpected variables." TikTok is an issue attracting attention in the U.S. President Biden signed a law at the end of April that will force TikTok to cut ties with ByteDance, TikTok's parent company in China, or else it will be banned in the country. In March, former President Trump said TikTok was a threat. Threatens national security, but a ban on this application will hurt American youth and social networks. The U.S. government has harshly criticized TikTok in the past few years, accusing it of being a platform that serves the interests of China, although TikTok firmly denies it. In August 2020, while still in office, Mr. Trump also signed an executive order requiring TikTok to cut ties with ByteDance within 45 days or be banned in the U.S. Many U.S. states have banned this application on government devices due to concerns. Privacy. TikTok sued in federal court and won. Mr. Trump said he was willing to accept prison time. In a new Fox News interview published on June 2nd, former U.S. President Donald Trump said that he agrees that he may have to go to jail or be under house arrest in the case of falsifying business records to cover up the payment to silence actress Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 U.S. presidential election. "I'm willing to accept. The other day, I saw one of my lawyers say on television that you wouldn't want to do that to the former president. But I told them, don't ask for anything," Mr. Trump said in an interview. However, Mr. Trump also warned that the sentences imposed by the court could anger voters who support him. "I don't think the public will accept that. I'm not sure the public will support that," the former U.S. president added. After 2 days of discussion, on May 30th, a 12-member jury in New York concluded that Mr. Trump was guilty of 34 crimes related to falsifying business documents to conceal election law violations during the 2016 election campaign. Mr. Donald Trump became the first former U.S. president to be convicted. He will not be detained before trial sentencing. With this verdict, Mr. Trump became the first former president in U.S. history to be found guilty of a criminal offense. Judge Juan Merchan set Mr. Trump's sentencing hearing to take place on July 11th, just a few days before the Republican National Convention. Judge Juan Merchan set sentencing for July 11th, which is a few days before the Republican National Convention. The event plans to officially nominate Mr. Trump as the party's presidential candidate. Former President Trump is currently facing a maximum sentence of 4 years in prison, although for those crimes, others usually receive a maximum sentence of 4 years in prison. Shorter sentences, administrative fines or just house arrest. 49% of Americans want Trump to end his candidacy. On June 2nd, a survey released showed that 50% of respondents said that it was correct for a New York jury to conclude that former U.S. President Donald Trump was guilty. The survey also showed that 49% of participants thought that Mr. Trump should immediately stop his election campaign. Nearly half of Americans surveyed thought the New York jury's verdict against Mr. Trump was correct and the former president should stop running. Trump announced his appeal of the jury's decision and attacked the trial. New York court was fraudulent and disgraceful. He is also increasing his calls for donations and shows no signs of stopping his campaign. 12 jurors of the Manhattan Criminal Court in New York on May 30th found Mr. Trump guilty of all crimes. 34 charges of falsifying business records to cover up unfavorable information before the 2016 presidential election. The judge will issue a verdict on July 11th, a few days before the Republican National Convention took place. Survey 47% of respondents agreed with the former U.S. president that the accusations against him were politically motivated. Mr. Trump's approval rating has not decreased compared to previous polls. About 31% of respondents still had sympathy for the former president even before and after he was convicted by the jury. 51% of survey participants thought that Mr. Trump had intentionally broken the law, while 12% thought he was unintentional. Among Republicans, only 18% agreed with the jury's verdict. This figure for Democrats and independents without a party affiliation is 83% and 52%, respectively. On June 2nd, survey results with independent voters without a party were also announced, of which 54% said Mr. Trump received a fair trial, 46% said it was unfair that he was found guilty. Independent voters are considered an important group that can determine the outcome of this year's presidential election in the U.S. Among U.S. adults in general, the survey shows that 57% believe that the New York jury has made a decision. Right decision, 43% said they were wrong. The CBS News YouGov survey was conducted with 989 adults across the United States, taking place from May 30th to June 1st. How do you feel? Do you support Mr. Trump in this event? This is the end of the video. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Hello and see you soon.